Every thought you have isn't yours. That statement, at first glance, may feel unsettling, even a little offensive, as though your sovereignty has been trespassed upon. But if you sit with it long enough, it begins to hum like a tuning fork inside your chest. It strikes a chord of recognition, something half forgotten, a truth you suspected but never dared to say aloud. You've always felt it, in moments when a phrase enters your mind with such strange timing that it almost feels implanted, or when you catch yourself thinking in voices that do not belong to you, echoing tones you've absorbed from others without conscious permission. The mind is a cathedral with many stained glass windows, each casting colored light, and not every image on the glass was carved by your own hands. Consider this: you were born into a world already saturated with symbols, words, beliefs, and myths. Before you ever spoke your first word, your mind was flooded by the language of your caretakers, the expectations of your culture, the silent architecture of society itself. To imagine that your thoughts are purely yours would be like believing the air you breathe has never passed through the lungs of another creature. The truth is more fluid, more communal, and also more mysterious. Every breath of thought you take has already swirled through the atmosphere of countless human minds before arriving at yours. Yet there is something deeper, more cosmic, at play here. The very fabric of consciousness appears to be a shared field, a vast ocean in which individual identities are but temporary waves. Thoughts emerge not as private possessions, but as currents moving through this field, drawn by invisible gravitational pulls. Some come from the voices of your parents, teachers, and friends. Others seep in through the media you consume, the books you read, the songs you hum. Still others whisper from collective archetypes older than recorded history, ancient patterns coded in myths, religious texts, and primal symbols that still haunt our dreams. And there are some, more elusive, that seem to belong to no one in particular, thoughts that drift through the cosmos like stray comets, awaiting a mind ready to receive them. To recognize that not every thought belongs to you is not to diminish your uniqueness. On the contrary, it is to awaken to the interconnected web of existence that has been shaping you since the first moment you arrived. It is to acknowledge that your mind is both a transmitter and a receiver, like an old radio catching multiple frequencies at once. Some signals are familiar, some are static, and some seem to arrive from stations you never knew existed. You did not build the radio, but you are the one who chooses again and again how to tune it. Imagine walking through a bustling market of thoughts, each vendor calling out to you with polished phrases, clever jingles, persuasive arguments, fearful warnings. Some stalls belong to advertisers who have long perfected the art of planting ideas that bloom later in your decisions. Others are tended by family and ancestors, whose voices echo across generations, reminding you of duties, dreams, and taboos you never signed up for but carry like invisible luggage. Still others are more shadowy, archetypal presences that have existed since the dawn of humankind, whispering themes of heroism, betrayal, longing, and transcendence. And amidst all of this, you weave through the chaos, sometimes mistaking their words for your own inner voice. The realization can feel both liberating and disorienting. On one hand, it unveils the truth. You are not the solitary author of your thoughts, and therefore you are not entirely imprisoned by them. On the other hand, it forces you to confront a deeper question. If these thoughts are not entirely yours, then who or what is actually thinking? Are you the thinker or merely the witness? And if you are the witness, who are you beyond the flood of ideas that rush through your inner world? This exploration, the journey into who really placed those thoughts in your mind, carries both practical significance and cosmic depth. Practically, it allows us to see how our daily lives are shaped by narratives we have unconsciously absorbed. We buy products, chase goals, and judge ourselves by standards that may never have been truly ours to begin with. Cosmetically, it suggests that the mind is not an isolated island, but part of a great ocean of consciousness, an ocean where thoughts drift across borders of space and time. The boundary between self and other begins to blur, and what emerges is a picture of existence that is simultaneously humbling and exhilarating. To look at this deeply is to peel away the layers of illusion, one by one. First comes the recognition that society implants thoughts, politics, advertising, education, religion, all forming an unseen chorus that rehearses inside your head. Then comes the realization that family and culture lay their hands upon your thoughts long before you can resist. Beyond these, the collective unconscious, the realm Carl Jung described, seeps archetypes into your inner theater, painting your dreams with myths far older than your body. And perhaps beyond even that, there exists a cosmic intelligence, a kind of universal library from which inspiration, prophecy, and creativity flow. Every thought you have isn't yours, but that doesn't mean you are powerless. It means you are part of something larger, a dance of energies and voices that extends far beyond the limits of your individual life. The task, then, is not to claim ownership of every thought, but to discern, to choose, to listen with awareness and intention. It is to realize that you can learn which voices deserve amplification, which ones need silencing, and which ones are merely passing through like clouds in the sky. In this exploration, we will travel across layers of meaning. We will examine the core themes and concepts that underpin this strange truth. We will delve into symbolic narratives that reveal the deeper architecture of thought itself. We will explore practical ways of integrating this awareness into daily life so that you are no longer unconsciously ruled by thoughts that are not your own. And finally, we will arrive at a conclusion that invites transformation, a call to awaken to your role as both a participant in and a witness to the great mystery of consciousness. So let us step together into this inquiry as if entering a sacred labyrinth. Each turn will reveal new passages, hidden chambers of understanding, and reflections that stretch beyond the walls of ordinary thinking. The phrase, "every thought you have isn't yours," is not a cage. It is a key, and what it unlocks is not limitation, but a vast horizon of freedom and connection. If the introduction was the striking of a bell, awakening us to the mystery that our thoughts are not fully our own, then here we must sit with the reverberations. We must listen closely to the tones that ripple out, each one carrying an invitation to explore the architecture of thought, to see what forces carve its foundations and what winds fill its sails. This is not a task of pure intellect, it is an immersion, a descent into the hidden streams of influence that flow through us. And though those streams may seem intangible, their effects are everywhere. In the products we buy, in the loves we choose, in the fears that haunt us, and even in the way we define the self we claim to be. The first and most immediate theme to emerge is the idea of conditioning. From the moment you open your eyes to the world, the scaffolding of thought is already being built around you. Your family gives you your first words, your culture supplies your first myths. Your society offers its silent rules about what is acceptable and what is forbidden. These early imprints are not just information, they are templates, grooves carved into the mind's soil, directing the flow of thought like channels in a riverbed. You may believe you are choosing freely when you reach adulthood, but those choices are often guided by pathways you did not consciously construct. It is like inheriting a house with hidden hallways and secret doors. You live in it, you furnish it, but the blueprint was drawn long before you were born. Conditioning, however, is not a monolith. It wears many masks. One mask is familial, the way your parents' unresolved fears become whispers in your head. Don't risk too much. You must succeed to be loved. This is who we are, and this is who we are not. Another mask is societal, carried by institutions that embed narratives into your being. The idea of success as measured by possessions, the glorification of certain careers, the belief in scarcity, the worship of productivity. A third mask belongs to culture, shaping how you interpret the world. Whether you view time as linear or cyclical, whether suffering is seen as punishment or initiation, whether identity is tied to individuality or community. These masks settle over the mind so seamlessly that you often forget they were ever placed upon you. But beyond the conditioning of the personal and the social lies, something deeper, something Carl Jung gestured toward with the concept of the collective unconscious. This is not just about what your parents said or what the billboards scream. It is about archetypes that have lived in the human psyche for millennia. The hero who slays the dragon, the mother who nurtures or devours, the trickster who breaks boundaries. These patterns are not bound to a single culture. They emerge again and again in mythologies across the world, suggesting that they are not merely learned, but woven into the very fabric of what it means to be human. When you feel a sudden surge of courage, a shiver of betrayal, or a longing for transcendence, you are not just reacting personally. You are touching a thread that stretches across the whole tapestry of human existence. In these moments, the thought that arises in you may feel deeply intimate, but it is also profoundly universal. And then there is a still stranger possibility that thoughts are not merely conditioned or archetypal, but that they may drift like signals in a cosmic field, available to any who are tuned in. History offers curious evidence, inventions discovered simultaneously by people who never met, artistic movements emerging in different corners of the world at the same time, spiritual revelations that echo across cultures without direct contact. It is as though certain ideas are ripe, waiting in the ether, descending like rain upon multiple minds at once. If this is true, then the mind is less like a container and more like an antenna, not generating thoughts in isolation, but catching them from a larger broadcast of existence. These themes, conditioning, archetypes, the collective broadcast of thought, together challenge the very notion of ownership. If you believe every thought is yours, you become enslaved by them, attaching your identity to every passing notion. But if you realize that thoughts are visitors, influences, and echoes, you begin to develop discernment. You can step back and ask, who placed this thought here? Is it my grandmother's voice speaking in me? Is it the marketplace whispering its slogans? Is it the mythic call of the hero's journey nudging me forward? Or is it something stranger still, a fragment of the cosmos trying to find expression through me? The second major theme that emerges from this inquiry is responsibility. If your thoughts are not entirely yours, does that absolve you of accountability for them? Or does it place an even greater responsibility on you to choose wisely which thoughts to nourish and which to let pass? To recognize that not all thoughts belong to you is to awaken to your role as a gardener of the mind. Seeds will always blow in from every direction, some carrying weeds, some carrying flowers. But the soil of your attention determines which will take root. Awareness becomes the act of cultivation. Without awareness, you are a passive field, overgrown by whatever lands there. With awareness, you become the steward, shaping the landscape of your inner world. Another theme, intimately woven with responsibility, is freedom. Freedom does not lie in rejecting all external influence, for that would be impossible, like refusing to breathe air because others have exhaled it before you. True freedom lies in recognizing the influences at play and choosing consciously how to engage with them. It is the freedom of the sailor who cannot control the wind, but can learn to set the sails. You cannot stop thoughts from arriving, but you can decide how to steer your life in response. The final theme is mystery. For even as we name conditioning, archetypes, and collective thought fields, there remains something ineffable, something beyond the reach of tidy explanation. Where do thoughts ultimately come from? Is there a cosmic source, an intelligence beyond the human that speaks through the chorus of our minds? Is thought itself a fundamental property of the universe, like gravity or light, with human consciousness merely serving as one of its many vessels? Or are we simply spinning metaphors to describe something we cannot fully grasp? The mystery humbles us, reminding us that to be human is to dwell in questions as much as in answers. Together, these themes create a framework for understanding the strange reality that every thought you have isn't yours. They remind us that the mind is not a solitary fortress, but a living crossroads where voices from family, culture, history, archetype, and perhaps the cosmos itself all converge. To navigate such a crossroads requires vigilance, humility, and courage. It requires the willingness to trace a thought back to its origin, to see who placed it there, and to decide whether it deserves a seat at your inner table. And so we stand now at the threshold, with these guiding themes lighting the way forward. We have mapped the terrain of influences, but maps are not enough. To truly feel the depth of this mystery, we must enter into story, into the realm of symbol and allegory where ideas take on flesh and drama. For sometimes the truth cannot be spoken directly. It must be carried by tales, by images, by myth. To step into the realm of symbolic narratives is to leave behind the plain road of explanation and wander into a forest where every tree carries a hidden message, every shadow conceals a lesson, and every bird call is a whisper of forgotten truths. If the earlier sections offered us maps and compasses, here we enter the landscape itself, letting the stories guide us in ways that reason alone cannot. Symbols have a power logic does not. They bypass the gatekeeper of rationality and slip directly into the depths of the soul, where recognition often comes not as a thought but as a shiver, a sense that you have always known what you are now hearing. One story that speaks to this idea that every thought is not entirely yours emerges in the myth of Echo and Narcissus. Echo, cursed to repeat only the words of others, wanders the forest unable to form a voice of her own. Narcissus, enamored only with the reflection he believes to be his, is deaf to her presence. The tale is often read as a warning against vanity, but hidden within it is another thread. The voice we carry is often not our own. Echo embodies the human mind repeating fragments it has absorbed, unable to originate freely, Narcissus embodies the ego entranced by its illusions, mistaking borrowed reflections for self-generated truth. Together they show us the danger of failing to recognize whose words we carry, whose images we worship. Like Echo, we risk becoming a chorus of borrowed phrases. Like Narcissus, we risk confusing imposed ideas with the essence of our being. Another story can be found in the image of a grand library that stretches beyond time. Imagine wandering through endless aisles filled with books written by ancestors long gone, philosophers yet unborn, voices that come from places beyond the earth itself. You pick up a book at random, and as you open its pages, the words leap into your mind as if you had thought them yourself. This is how many ideas arrive, already written, already composed, waiting for you to stumble upon them. The library is the collective unconscious, the cosmic field of thought, and you are not its sole author but its reader and, at times, its scribe. When an invention sparks in multiple places at once, it is as though several readers reach the same shelf of the library at the same time, their hands brushing against the same book of destiny. There is also the allegory of the marketplace of masks. Picture yourself walking through a crowded bazaar and every stall offers not objects but masks. One mask whispers, "I am the achiever, and my worth is measured by what I accomplish." Another whispers, "I am the caretaker, and my value lies in what I sacrifice for others." Yet another murmurs, "I am the rebel, defined by what I resist." These masks are not evil, they are part of the drama of life. But when you place one upon your face, the thoughts that accompany it flood in. You do not invent them. They come with the mask, prepackaged. And so, people walk through the market, wearing masks given by family, by society, by history, convinced the voices inside them are their own. To awaken is not to discard all masks, for life without them is impossible. It is to know you are wearing them, to choose deliberately, and to remember there is a face beneath them all. Perhaps the most haunting symbol is that of the puppet theater. Imagine a marionette on a stage, moving gracefully, unaware of the strings that guide its every gesture. The audience applauds, convinced of its autonomy. Yet above the stage, hands unseen pull the threads, some belonging to parents, others to governments, others to cultural myths, still others to archetypes older than memory. The marionette believes it is free, but only when it looks upward, when it sees the strings, does it realize it can learn to dance with awareness. The strings do not vanish, the puppet never floats unbound. But it can recognize the choreography, and in that recognition lies a new kind of freedom. There are gentler stories too, stories that remind us this interplay of voices is not always sinister. Consider the image of a garden filled with seeds carried on the wind. Some seeds come from distant mountains, others from nearby valleys, others from ancient forests. They settle in the soil of your being, and some sprout without your asking. You may wake one day filled with longing for a place you have never seen, or with an idea you cannot trace to any conversation you've had. These are seeds germinating. Not every plant in your garden was planted by your own hands, but you can water them, prune them, or let them wither. You are both gardener and ground, both receiver and cultivator. And then there is the tale of the mirror room. Imagine entering a chamber lined with infinite mirrors. You speak a thought aloud, and it bounces back to you 1,000 times, each echo slightly altered. Some are louder, some distorted, some sweetened, some darkened. Soon you forget which voice was yours and which were the reflections. This is the nature of the media-saturated world. Thoughts reverberate, repeated so often they seem original, though they are but echoes bouncing off the mirrors of collective attention. To awaken in the mirror room is to notice the distortion, to remember that silence too is an option, that not every echo deserves to be repeated. These symbolic narratives illuminate what cannot be easily explained. They remind us that the human mind is less an isolated fortress and more a crossroads, a theater, a garden, a mirror hall. Each metaphor casts light on a different dimension of the mystery. The puppet theater reveals the forces of control. The mask market shows the roles we unconsciously adopt. The library evokes the vastness of collective wisdom and archetypal inheritance. The garden points to the organic, fertile nature of mind. And the mirror room warns of repetition and distortion. Together, they invite us into deeper humility and deeper empowerment, showing us that our task is not to escape influence, but to see it, to dance with it, and to choose our alignment. Through story, the truth emerges more vividly than through analysis alone. Every thought you have isn't yours, but in learning the narratives behind those thoughts, in recognizing the masks, the strings, the seeds, the echoes, you gain the capacity to live with a new kind of sovereignty. You become less the unwitting vessel and more the conscious witness, less the marionette and more the one who knows the strings. If the myths and allegories of the last section gave us mirrors to see ourselves more clearly, now we turn to the soil beneath our feet. What good is recognizing that not every thought is ours if we cannot translate that awareness into the way we live, love, work, and dream? The challenge is to bridge the cosmic with the everyday, to let the recognition of borrowed thoughts transform not just our philosophy, but the practical rhythms of life. To do so is not to escape the world, but to move through it with new eyes, aware of the hidden architecture shaping us, yet free to shape back. Begin with the most intimate sphere, your inner dialogue. Most people carry within them a chorus of voices, a ceaseless commentary on every action, decision, and moment of silence. One voice scolds, another encourages, another doubts, another dreams. They argue, interrupt, overlap. Without awareness, you identify with the loudest one and mistake it for yourself. But when you pause, when you observe, you notice the tones. One voice sounds suspiciously like your mother, another like a teacher who once humiliated you, another like the preacher on the television, another like the hero of a book you loved. To see this is revolutionary. You realize you are not the entire choir, you are the conductor. You may not dismiss every voice, but you can decide which one leads the song. This insight bleeds into relationships. How often do arguments arise not from the true essence of two people, but from the collision of borrowed scripts? A husband speaks with the voice of his father, the wife replies with the anxieties of her mother, and soon two ancestral echoes are quarreling while the present selves are lost in the noise. Awareness changes this. When you catch yourself reacting with someone else's thought, you can pause and choose differently. You can let silence interrupt the automatic script. In that silence, something authentic can emerge. Your own voice, unmasked, unborrowed, alive in the moment. Beyond the personal, there is the cultural. Every society sells a story. What it means to be successful, what it means to be worthy, what it means to belong. These stories are whispered into your mind daily, through advertisements, through films, through the subtle expectations of peers. If you never question them, you will find yourself chasing goals that are not yours, exhausting yourself in pursuit of trophies that never truly nourish. To recognize this is not to renounce all culture, but to ask, whose story am I living? Is this career, this purchase, this belief truly mine? Or is it the voice of the marketplace speaking through me? Such questions can shake foundations, but they also set you free to craft a life that feels aligned with the soul, rather than dictated by the billboards. Then comes the realm of creativity. Artists, inventors, thinkers, all are familiar with the strange experience of ideas arriving as if from nowhere. A painter wakes from a dream with an image she cannot explain. A scientist stumbles upon a solution while walking in the woods, the answer appearing whole in his mind like a gift. To understand that thoughts are not all yours is to respect this mystery, to court it intentionally. You begin to create conditions for inspiration. Quiet mornings, long walks, moments of play. You tune the radio of your mind to catch signals from the deeper field. Creativity becomes less an act of possession and more an act of participation. You are a channel, a collaborator with forces larger than yourself. On a more collective scale, this awareness reshapes how we engage with society's great challenges. Fear, prejudice, greed. These two are thoughts that spread like viruses, replicating from mind to mind, infecting entire populations. To see that a hateful thought is not yours but a contagion is to weaken its power. You can decline to host it, to spread it, to let it root in your soil. Likewise, compassion, justice, and courage are thoughts that spread, but they need hosts willing to amplify them. Each person becomes a transmitter, deciding which frequencies to broadcast into the shared field. Social change is not just about laws and systems. It is about the invisible currents of thought that move through millions of minds. To take responsibility for your own mental frequencies is to participate in shaping the collective atmosphere. There is also a practical gift in recognizing the impermanence of thought. Many suffer because they believe every thought is a command, a truth, an obligation. Anxiety whispers catastrophe, and they believe it. Shame repeats old wounds, and they bow beneath it. But when you see thoughts as visitors, not owners, you can let them come and go. A thought arises. I am not enough. Instead of accepting it as law, you can ask, who placed this here? Is this the voice of culture selling me inadequacy so I will buy more? Is this the echo of childhood criticism? The question itself breaks the spell. You realize the thought is not yours to carry, and you let it pass like a cloud across the sky. In practical integration, meditation becomes not an esoteric ritual, but a laboratory for discernment. To sit quietly, to watch thoughts rise and fall, is to train the skill of seeing them as separate from self. Over time, the grip loosens. You no longer drown in every wave, you float. This practice spills into daily life. In traffic, at work, in conflict, you recognize the arising of thoughts and choose whether to follow them or not. You become less a prisoner of the mind and more its witness and guide. Even technology takes on new meaning in this light. In a world where algorithms serve you endless streams of content, planting thoughts designed to provoke outrage or desire, discernment is more vital than ever. Each scroll of the finger is an invitation to adopt someone else's thought. To be conscious in the digital age is to ask continually, who benefits from me thinking this way? It is to curate not only what you consume, but how you interpret it. To remember that even in a sea of influence, your awareness remains the rudder. Ultimately, practical integration means living as both participant and witness. You engage with the world, but you do so awake, aware of the voices shaping you, aware of your power to choose. You recognize that you cannot stop every influence, nor should you. Life is not lived in isolation, but in dialogue with the collective. Yet within that dialogue, you can learn to speak with your own authentic voice, to discern which borrowed thoughts align with your truth and which do not. You can shape your mind as carefully as a sculptor shapes clay, not by erasing every external handprint, but by consciously deciding which ones remain part of the finished form. And so the mystery that began as unsettling, every thought you have isn't yours, becomes not a threat, but a liberation. It is a reminder that you are not condemned to be the puppet, the mask, the echo. You are capable of awareness, of choice, of alignment. You are both receiver and transmitter, both soil and gardener, both actor and witness. To live with this understanding is to live more deliberately, more authentically, more freely. We have walked a long road together, tracing the threads of thought from their origins in family, culture, society, archetypes, and the collective field, all the way into the soil of our daily lives. We began with the startling declaration that every thought you have isn't yours, and perhaps now it no longer feels startling but strangely obvious, like a truth you had always suspected but never fully named. Along the way, we wandered through metaphors of markets and mirrors, libraries and puppet stages, gardens and choirs, each one offering a way to see the hidden architecture of the mind. And then we grounded those insights in the ordinary rhythms of living, showing how awareness of these influences can shape relationships, creativity, resilience, and even the collective destiny of humanity. Now, as we come to the conclusion, the question lingers. What is to be done with this knowledge? Awareness alone is not enough, for awareness without transformation becomes just another echo in the chamber. The true gift of recognizing that not every thought is yours is the opening it creates, the possibility of freedom, of authenticity, of stepping beyond inherited scripts into the raw immediacy of your own being. The first call is to vigilance, not vigilance in the sense of paranoia or constant suspicion, but vigilance as a quiet watchfulness. To live awake is to become the observer of your own mind, noticing which thoughts arise and asking gently, who placed this here? Do I wish to keep it? This vigilance is a kind of meditation in motion, carried with you into every conversation, every decision, every moment of doubt or desire. It is not about rejecting all external influence. That would be impossible and even foolish, for much wisdom arrives from others, but about discerning which influences resonate with the truth that stirs in your heart. The second call is to courage, for once you begin to see whose thoughts live inside you, you may realize how many of them are outdated, fear-based, or simply unworthy of shaping your life. To set them down is not easy. It may mean disappointing your family's expectations, resisting the pressure of culture, or letting go of beliefs that once gave you comfort. Courage is required to strip away these layers, to risk being misunderstood, to walk paths where fewer footprints mark the soil. Yet in that courage lies your freedom, for only by releasing the false can you step fully into the real. The third call is to creativity. Once you realize that thoughts flow through you like currents, you can become more than a passive receiver. You can become a co-creator with the field itself. You can open yourself to inspiration, allow ideas to move through you and give them form in words, thoughts and acts of kindness, or visions of change. To live this way is to see yourself as a bridge between the unseen and the seen, between the collective and the individual, between the eternal and the present. Your creativity becomes not just personal expression, but participation in the ongoing unfolding of the cosmos. The fourth call is to responsibility. If your thoughts are not entirely yours, then you are also a transmitter, sending frequencies back into the field. Every word you speak, every act of attention, every silent belief contributes to the atmosphere of human consciousness. You are not powerless. You are a node in the great web of mind. To take responsibility for your inner landscape is to take responsibility for the outer world, for the two are inseparable. As you cultivate compassion, you transmit it. As you resist fear, you weaken its spread. As you align with truth, you strengthen its resonance. This is not metaphor, but reality, for the collective is shaped by the sum of individual transmissions. And finally, the call is to humility. For even as we awaken, even as we learn to discern and to choose, there remains mystery. No matter how far we trace the origins of thought, we cannot reach the ultimate source. Is it God? Is it the cosmos itself dreaming through us? Is it something beyond language altogether? The truth slips through the fingers of explanation, reminding us that the human mind is but a small window into an infinite sky. To live with humility is to accept that not all answers can be found, and that the journey of discernment is never finished. In the end, to realize that every thought you have isn't yours is not to despair. It is to awaken to your role in the great conversation of existence. You are not a solitary thinker, but a participant in a symphony, and your gift is to bring awareness to the notes you play. You need not silence all the borrowed voices. You need only recognize them, choose wisely, and let your own authentic tone ring clear among them. For beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning and archetypes and echoes, there's a deeper voice, quiet but steady, pulsing like a drumbeat. It does not shout, but it guides. It is not given to you by society or family or culture. It arises from the essence of who you are, from the spark that is uniquely yours within the vast field of consciousness. So let this recognition not paralyze you, but empower you. Let it be the key that unlocks the labyrinth, the lantern that illuminates the path. Stand in the marketplace of thoughts with awareness. Dance in the puppet theater knowing the strings. Wander the infinite library as both reader and writer. Tend your inner garden with patience and care. Step into the mirror room and remember your silence. And above all, listen for the voice beneath all voices, the one that is not imposed but innate, not borrowed but born within you. That is the voice of your soul, and though it may be quiet, it is the truest guide you will ever know. This, then, is the call. Awaken. Discern. Create. Transmit. And walk humbly. For every thought you have isn't yours, but the choice of how you live with them, the courage to align with what resonates with truth, and the freedom to express the authentic pulse of your being, those are yours and no one else's.